Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. It's only been, 2 days since my last review, because I said that the book I was reading next was it's quite a short book, so it probably wouldn't take me long to get through. So yeah, I said it's a possibility that this could happen. It's Sunday morning that I might get another review to you, and that is the case. So I'm not going to give an update of how I've been because it's only been 2 days and I'm still all good. But this morning I'm actually quite tired this morning. I got woken up, startled awake by a bad dream, which I couldn't get back to sleep from, and the clocks changed. So because of that, I was up at 3 a.m. That combination, I was up at 3 a.m, couldn't get back to sleep. So I've done loads of cooking, like batch cooking for the week and such, and making loads of soup and leftover veg and that. And it's now 7 a.m. and I've done like my key task for the day that I needed to get done, and it's only 7 a.m. and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to be asleep by mid-afternoon. I know it. So yeah, I'm feeling kind of a bit buzzed, as it were, because I've just drunk loads of coffee as well. So I'm just going to be probably a zombie by the afternoon. But anyway, I'm here to talk about the book I've been reading for the past 2 days. I read yesterday, and that is We See Everything by William Sutcliffe. And straight off, I'm going to be totally honest, I gave up. It's a 250-page book. I stopped at, I think, just over page 100, because 100 is actually the middle of a chapter. So I think it might have been about 100 and... yeah, page 102 is where I stopped. Because I was like, I had issues with this book, and I thought, you know what? I am going to go as far as I can deal with this, and when I have reached a point where I'm so frustrated, I'm going to stop. And that point was page 100. I thought that's a fair amount, given it's a 250-page book. So, what is this book about? Right, this book is set in London. We don't know exactly when, but it's kind of a situation where there's been some sort of a dystopian event, but we don't know what that event was whatsoever. It's set in London, and basically there are two sides of London. You've got the Strip, where everyone kind of lives, very crowded, people are starving, it's not a very good environment. So that's on one side of London. On the other side of London, there's the coast, which is where people who are very rich, very much in power, live and work. And in the middle is the exclusion zone. Central London, it's this like bombed out kind of area. And basically the people on the coast side are the ones who create and control drones. God, you can tell I'm tired. I can't even think of the words. They control drones which follow individuals on the Strip, and they can set off missiles and stuff and thus kill people. So basically, your job, if you work on that side of London, is to murder people on that side of London. And they have like no human emotion linked to the people. They just see them as terrorists. Everyone on the Strip is a terrorist, and your job is to follow this specific terrorist, keep logs of everything they do, and when they make a mistake or possibly rebel, then you blow them up. That's your job. Okay, so on the coast side we have Alan, who lives with his mum. He's 21 years old. He has gone through all of the procedures to learn how to do what he does. He's really into computer programming and such, and we learn about his backstory and that. But he's completely kind of void of emotion. He's a really horrible character, and he's like really... like the first time we meet him, he sets off an explosion to kill his target, and because of that he celebrates by buying a motorbike. because he met his quota, as it were, and so he got a load of money for doing what he did. So he's like, screw it, I'm going to go out and buy a motorbike. And it was like, okay. So that's Alan, and on the strip we have Lex. So Lex is about 16 years old. We don't get his exact age, but it's mid-teens he's referred to as. And he lives with his mum, dad, and twin siblings who are quite a bit younger than him. And he knows that his dad is involved with something, but he's not sure what. And Alan's target is Lex's dad. So they are linked, but they are completely separate individuals who never meet. But it's about how different sides of London, how they see the world, how they do things, that kind of thing, and tell this story about the steps that they take on their journey through this kind of important phase of their life. Now, as you can tell, because I only got through 100 pages, I really didn't like this book. I think, this is a dystopian novel which is specifically written for young adults, but the way that it is written, I feel like it's more of a book that if you are introducing a teenager to the dystopian genre, so around, 12, 13, maybe 14, this is probably a good one to start on. But as an adult reading this, and let's face it, young adult fiction, which I've said multiple times on this challenge, is a marketing tag. It does not mean that you can only read this book if you're a young adult. So thus, I'm in my mid-30s now, and I picked this up because I went to a literature festival event last year, and it was all about dystopian books, where schools around the area where I live each took one book, and they basically represented that book as part of the festival, and they kind of whittled down which was the best dystopian novel out of the lot. And there was a boy who really loved We See Everything, and he was saying about the concept and such, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting, that's why I got the book. So it wasn't a case of I was really I'd heard about this book and I was really buzzed about it and all the reviews and everything. It wasn't that case whatsoever. I just thought, oh, I give this a go. And so I think for his age group, because I think he was about 13, it works. But for an adult, or at least for me, it really didn't work whatsoever, because it didn't help that the writer kept on contradicting himself, and it drove me up the wall. So, for example, I did a picture and sent it to my sister and our friend Sarah. Hi girls, if you're watching this. And it was page 78 and page 79. And on page 78, this is Alan, so he's following Lex's dad. He refers to the target standing in the family's small garden, which is surrounded by toys scattered all around. And then on page 79, he says that how there's no grass areas in the strip in order for kids to kick a ball around. And I'm like, you just said that they were in their garden, which means the family have got an area to kick a ball around. So why are you saying there is no grass and such for kids to kick balls around on the following page? Do you mean like massive pictures, in which I can understand that, but it was just a bit like, okay, they completely contradict each other. Also, what really kind of drove me insane was that you're constantly told those who live in the strip, they get, bombs thrown at them, they get shot, there's all of this craziness going on. So they live very crowded together. Yet Lex's family have a house to themselves with a garden in London. Unless you live kind of further in the outskirts of London, you have got bank if you have a bit of grass to call your own, basically. The city is that cramped. So I'm like, well, how can you say that in the strip, families, because of the bombing and bombed out areas and the shooting out and all that lot, how can you say that they live all crowded together if Lex's family have their own house? How can you say that people are starving and doing whatever they can to get money if he lives in a house which has got a garden that's full of toys? Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of, why you keep on emphasizing extremes but then contradicting them with the actual character of Lex, who is in the middle of that. The whole opening chapter is Lex going to the exclusion zone because he can see there's a blueberry bush, and not blueberry, sorry, blackberries, and what he will do in order to get them so that he can sell them, that he's concerned about he's going to get shot if he's seen, and what route can he take to avoid, because that will give them load of money so that they can buy food. But they're in a house. But do you know what I mean? I'm just like, why? And also, he doesn't ever, or at least the 100 pages that I got through before I gave up, he never explains things that are critical. So, for example, you ask yourself, okay, this is happening in London. When did this whole thing happen? I'm not telling you that. What was the thing that happened? I'm not telling you that. Is it further around the UK or is it just London? Not telling you that. Okay, were the characters born pre this situation happening or post? Not telling you that. Like, for the love of God, just please tell me. Like, at least with books like The Hunger Games, you don't get much information, but you are told via the video that they have to watch, which explains the whole, the games. You are told what happened, how long ago it was. You're told what the Hunger Games are, the premise of the Hunger Games, the impact that it has, and the whole prize. So the 6 key things within, about 2 pages, right at the beginning of the book, and then you don't have to cover that again because you've got everything that you need to know. So why didn't he do that with this world? It was just so frustrating. Also, what didn't help is that, as I said, we follow Alan and Lex. Alan is an absolute dick. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be as harsh as possible. He has no likable qualities whatsoever. And then Lex, who is the key one out the two that we're really following, just has no personality. He kind of just goes along with stuff. But then stuff doesn't happen. He's just kind of tagging along and looking at things and oh God, don't even get me started on Zoe, who he meets along the way. Like, oh my God. So I was just like, I was rage reading this yesterday. I was like, I cannot take this. I cannot take this. This is just wrong. I can understand that for some reading this, that kind of structure works for them, but for me, it just didn't. And as I said, I'm not asking for descriptions, like full-on massive descriptions of all the past history and everything. Do like what they did in the Hunger Games. Give me like 5 or 6 key points that covers like maybe a page or page and a half to 2 page maximum near the beginning of your book, and that's all I need. But the more I didn't get it, and the more I read it, the more and more frustrated and annoyed I got. So I was like, right, I think page 100 is a good place to give me see how far I get with it, and then at that point review where you are. I wanted to throw this book across the room. I was that annoyed with it. So when page 102, because that was where the chapter ended, I was like, right, not touching again. And literally this is the first time I've physically touched this book since I hit that 100 page point about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I was just like, right, I'm done. I'm not going near this again. So I'm going to read you a little bit just to give you an idea of how obnoxious Alan is. Because, I mean, obviously his character may change over the rest of the book that I didn't read, which most likely is what would happen. But still, I kind of feel like, yeah, he may change a bit, but he's still going to have these ingrained thoughts of the people in the strip are terrorists, or that, what, it has to be something so extreme, I think, to make him change his mind, which makes me think more and more that he was born after the events in London, whatever those events were, happened, because it feels like it's something that he's grown up with. Yet his mother is very much against what he's doing, which kind of would argue that she either was appalled by the events which led to this splitting of London, or it has happened post his birth, but before he kind of sees the split happening, if you see what I mean. So, like, say it happened when he was about 3 or something like that. So he is growing up in this split world, but it did happen after he was born. Let me see what I mean. So I'm going to give you an example of how horrible Alan is. So this is him talking to his mum that because he blew up a building, he's gotten a bit more money, so he wants to contribute to the rent. At age 21, he's only just starting to contribute to rent in the house, right? So this is him talking to his mum. "Sit," she says, a voice that demanded compliance, using a particular tone I have never been able to defy. As I slump into the chair at the far end of the table, Mum looks at her hands. There's a strange pause. The atmosphere suddenly feels less like a mother and son talking in their home, more like a job interview. "It's not fine," she says, "because it's time you start contributing towards your upkeep. You're an adult and you're getting a wage, but I can't take money that you earned at that base, doing what you're doing." For a moment, I can't even understand what she's saying, so I just stare at her. "That money is tainted," she said, her voice flat, the dry, pale slot of her mouth entirely expressionless. "It's blood money. I don't want anything to do with it." Her meaning slowly sinks in. I can sense my cheeks reddening, burning with outrage. My jaw opens and closes stupidly. "What?" I say. "My money's not good enough for you." I'm aware as the words come out that I'm spouting a feeble cliche and my brain is fuzzy and off-kilter. Her accusation is so contemptible, so disloyal, such an insult that I'm too shocked to summon up a response. "You know how I feel about your job. I don't think it's right." She's done this to me all my life, and still it surprises me. I know instinctively and viscerally that whatever I do will, in my mother's eyes, be wrong. Sorry, my eyes are already starting to feel tired. I nearly read the same line twice. So everything I will do in my mother's eyes will be wrong. Yet for some reason, I cannot fathom every time she gives voice to her scorn, and it cuts me. I square my shoulders and stare her down, struggling to keep my voice low and steady, fighting back the shrill clench gripping my windpipe. "I'm protecting this country from our enemy," I say, "from terrorists who want to destroy us. You have no idea what I'm doing." "I have enough of an idea. It's in the news." "You don't have a clue." "You're flying drones. That's all I need to know." "I don't want tainted money in my hands, but I don't want you lounging around here, frittering away your wages with no sense of how to look after yourself like a proper adult. So I thought that we could choose a charity." I know this makes no sense. I know she has zero grasp of military strategy or of counter-terrorism, but I can never find the word to defend myself against my mother. I keep thinking that one day I will stand up and assert myself over her, but I have no idea how to make this happen. "There are organisations that collect for people in the strip," she continues. "The blockades keep them very low on medical supplies. We can help with that. Or we could find a charity for orphans there. That might be more fitting, given what you've been doing." Arguments, howls of outrage, screams of unadulterated anger flit through my brain, but nothing gets as far as my mouth. "If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't want to hear the truth either," she said. "But if nobody else is going to mention it to you, then I suppose it's my job." "I'm good at what I do," I bark, willing my legs to carry me from the room, to release me from her presence, but for some reason I do not move. And that makes it worse. I don't want to hear any more. Why can't you respect me? You always act like I'm a failure, but I have a career. I get paid. I have colleagues who recognize me for who I am. And you, my mother, you think you can endlessly judge me and criticize me. A career? Blood is pounding in my ears, and I realise that I'm on my feet with a chair toppled on its back behind me. My mouth is open, gulping in air for another tirade, when I notice that her eyes are glistening with tears. She's dead still, hands folded neatly in front of her on the tabletop, grey ponytail pointing limply down her stiff, straight back. My hand closes into a fist, which I pound down onto the table. Yes, a career! A silver candlestick clatters onto its side, the candle rolling across the tabletop in a lazy arc. I walk away, then find myself hovering, hands pressed against the door frame, head bowed. The rattle of the candle rolling back towards the centre of the table fills the room. So we'll go for a medical charity then, she says. I turn back to face her. She doesn't look up. The other guys at the base, to their families, they're heroes. She shakes her head, still not looking up. I don't understand. Why can't you see what you're doing? She says. It looks as if she's talking to her hands. You can give the money to whatever bunch of do-gooding idiots you want. I don't care. I'll be out of here as soon as I can. I can't take this anymore. I don't have to listen to you. Of course you don't, she says with a failing intonation which makes this sound like another accusation. I'm on the brink of asking her why she hates me, but I can't let myself say something that would sound so weak and needy. However, I put the question. It would seem like I was begging her for something, and I'm not going to beg. I look down at her frail, bony form, ankles tucked neatly together under the dark wooden dining chair. She looks so small, so vulnerable, yet I know she's immovable. Nothing I could say will change her opinion of my work or of me. If I want to be my own man, I have to stop caring what she thinks. While she can wound me with her disapproval, I am still a child, still somehow encircled and enslaved by her personality. The time has come to throw her off. I've waited far too long. I must leave home, leave her behind, and grow up. I walk out, turn from my bedroom, then spin on my heel and head for the front door. Even though it's late and dark, I need to get back on my bike. It doesn't matter where I go. I just need to ride. So as you can see, his mum is very much like, what you're doing is sick. I'm sorry, it's sick. But he is completely brainwashed by the government and what they do, and believes that by killing people, he's doing the right thing. And it's just like, oh my God, Alan, please open your eyes. I mean, I do like that aspect of young people being corrupted by a corrupt government. I think that's a really interesting thing to put in a YA fiction. But then there's so much stuff that I'm just so frustrated with. It is such a good concept, especially this modern times, of drones following you and watching you and kind of government big brother, and that the government at any time can do anything to you. But at the same time, you built this tiny, or at least to me, you showed this tiny square of a world, of a dystopian world, but you never fully explained it, and you didn't give the full grasp, the full scale of what was going on. And because of that, plus frustrating characters, it just didn't work for me, and I just got more and more angry, so I gave up after 100 pages. So yes, so there's my thoughts on We See Everything. Short, sharp review where I just basically say it was shit, or at least to me it was. I feel horrible, but actually I shouldn't say, because it does have its merits. It does have a good premise, but oh, good God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But of course, what I don't like doesn't mean that somebody else is going to feel the same way. Because actually, looking on Goodreads, there were quite a few people who gave it 4 or 5 stars, but then there were a lot of people that gave it low scores. So I think maybe age is possibly a factor. The way that I want to understand the world, especially a dystopian world, could be a factor. But then again, I need to remember that this was specifically written for YA fiction. So I think for the 13-year-old person who hasn't read really dystopia before, it's a good one to kick off a dystopian reading list. But as an adult, it didn't work for me. So there we go. That's all I'm going to say. So let's go through my list of questions as usual. Will I read this again? No. Would I recommend this to someone? I would if they have like a child, like I said, of about 13 who's looking to get into dystopia kind of novels. And I hope that this would lead on to things such as the Maze Runner books, the Hunger Games, that kind of thing. As a kick-off point, I would recommend this. But beyond that, I'd say no. Would I read any more William Sutcliffe's books? I'm not interested. After reading this, I mean, if someone said like if it was like got a massive buzz, like this is going to be the next big thing, then maybe I would pick it up. One, you know, but I'm really not fussed based on what I read. He's an all right writer, but there was just so many issues that I had with this. It would take a lot to make me pick up another book of his. So, yeah. So there we go, guys. So my thoughts on We See Everything by William Sutcliffe. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. You can give me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely up to you at your side. And I'll be back with thoughts on the next book, which is the last one that I've announced, which is The Devil in the White City. So obviously this is a bit chunkier, so I think this is probably going to take me until next weekend. And then I'm super excited to reveal the next books, which are probably going to take me up to Christmas, but I'm not sure. We'll just have to see, because each of them are quite chunky. And the theme of them is gifts. So there we go. So I will announce the next load that I'm reading after I have reviewed this. So next week you should get 2 videos from me. The review of this and my announcement video. So I'll be back with my thoughts on The Devil in the White City when I'm done. All right, then, guys. Bye.